life just gets faster and faster, and when you're short of time, the first thing you neglect is your backyard. So why not make a relaxing, low-maintenance Japanese Zen garden at your place? First things first, you've got to wrangle a couple of mates in and clear the joint out. Now, Japanese gardens are traditionally miniature landscapes, carefully constructed to represent natural elements like mountains and rivers. So my plan's to add some big volcanic rock to represent the mountains and gravel to represent flowing water. Now, we've left a lot of foliage behind, like the bamboo and the gingers, as a perfect backdrop. In fact, I think the mountains and the river have just turned up on the back of a truck. The trick is, even though I'm getting lots of different materials, try and get one delivery. It's only one delivery fee involved. Now, rocks like this, well, these cost us about $10 each, and the big ones a little bit more. But when you think about it, it's a small price to pay for such a beautiful feature in your garden. Now, usually I'm not a fan of weed mat, but it works perfectly in this situation. I'm actually using it to keep the dirt away from the pebbles so they stay nice and white, more than I am to keep the weeds out. When it comes to landscape design, you always try and plant in odd numbers. So I'm going to put 3 stones in here, and if you keep talking long enough, I don't have to help lift. I'm going to put the big one and then step it down, just like a mountain range. You want to see the world's easiest beach seat? Finished. I've used the existing retaining wall here, 1 big rock and half a sleeper. They come pre-cut, so there's no technique to building this. Now, if you didn't have the retaining wall, you just use 2 rocks. When you're only putting a few plants in a garden, especially a little Zen garden like this, you need to carefully pick your plants. This one here is Nandina domestica. It's a beautiful plant with red and lime green and yellow when the cold hits it. Then you've got Lorapetalum, beautiful dark, even burgundy leaf. And then on the ground, we're using Scleranthus. Now, this stuff's fantastic. Imagine being in a tiny little helicopter. This would look like the canopy of a forest, but it'd work in any garden. It's so thick and dense, it suppresses the weeds. They don't stand a chance. Now, we're going to build a traditional Japanese water feature, and the reason they had them was to scare off the deer. They'd fill up a reservoir, it'd come down and hit the rock, and the thud made the deer run. Well, haven't seen any deer around here, but it might scare off the occasional possum. Out of 1 large piece of bamboo, the first thing I need to do is knock out all the nodes internally. And the mechanics are pretty simple. You just need to drill a hole top and bottom and run some pipe through. I'm just using the 13mm stuff that you'd use in your garden. I'll put a flow valve on it so I control how fast it is, throw a spout on the end, and that's the first part done. The catch is pretty simple too. It's just an offcut of that large piece of bamboo. Drill a hole straight through so you can slide a thin piece of bamboo through it, a couple of legs with a couple of holes in it, and you've got yourself a pivot point. And it should look something like this. Now, the way it works is the hole I've drilled is behind a node, so in here, it's completely watertight. As it fills up, it'll tilt down, empty out, come back up and hit the rock, making that beautiful noise. You'll need a hole deep enough to fit the reservoir. Hook up a low voltage pump for around $20 and make sure the spout lines up with the catcher. Yes, we're nearly finished. Just the pebbles to go and a bit of raking. Now you need a minimum of about 50mm coverage of the white pebble, because once you've got it flat with a traditional garden rake, you need to make yourself one of these. It's just an offcut of ply, a nice flat edge for smoothing out, and on the other side, some really large teeth. So when you drag it through the pebbles, it creates lines, which are meant to be symbolic of ripples. Imagine throwing a pebble into a pond. It'll look like this. Well, there you go, a beautiful little Zen garden. Best thing about it, you don't have to be a skilled tradesman. There's no hard carpentry, tricky bricklaying, just a few simple elements. The nice little water feature's probably as tough as it gets. The little mountain range, kids play. And this bench, easiest one I've ever built. So you relax building it, and you relax living in it. Don't know about you, Dan, but I feel quite centred. What's that, you hungry? Yeah, so am I.